guys, today I want to give you my honest opinion on Wrestlemania 36. Now before I do that, I want to give you guys a little statement about my previous video. Um, First of all, let's talk about the audio. The audio was a little off because the typical editor app I use, I usually boost my mic audio just a bit so that my voice is heard a bit louder. The problem is the editor stopped working, and it still does not work as of me recording this. So to hike up my audio, I'm gonna have to do it a different way, which is fine, but just as a precaution. So I just want to mention that if the audio was quiet. Now I would like to talk about the outro, the little end scene. Um, as most of you know, in YouTube Creator, you can add a channel or a previous video or something along the lines of that can be somewhere on the screen. Now, I recorded specifically pointing out certain areas where certain cards and such would be. That being said, certain issues with the way I had set things up made it so YouTube wasn't allowing me to put them on for some reason. So the outro for that was a little weird. And the problem with the video as a whole, I thought it was a great video. It was one of my favorites to record. But the problem is, it wasn't quite, it, like, recorded and edited in time. I actually had to delay the upload from 5 o'clock to 5:30, which will now be my regular Saturday upload time. It'll be 5:30 p.m. But it was very strange because it just didn't work out great with the editors, and it took me way less time to edit than I thought it would, and somehow I managed to get it up in time. But it kind of made me realize that uploading 3 times a week is just not going to work, and doing uploads twice a week is going to be much smarter. So I will be resetting my schedules so that it'll be uploading it'll be uploading Wednesday at 5 p.m. and Saturday at 5:30 p.m. Now, without further ado, let's just get right into this video. So, as I am obviously a massive wrestling fan, and I tend to stay away from WWE because in the last few years, in my opinion, the product has declined. Because through all the good, there's been twice as much bad from what I have found as a viewer and as a fan. That being said, what I like to do is after a show or an event or an episode of Monday Night Raw or whatever, I like to watch the ups and downs on What Culture Wrestling or the What Went Down episodes. So I decided I wanted to make my own little series on that called My Thoughts On. And it may not just be wrestling content. I may do movies and music, such like that, songs. It may be something like that. So, what are my thoughts on WrestleMania 36? The problem I had with WrestleMania 36 was not actually the fact that they had no fans. I'm embracing the fact of wrestling with no fans, and I actually don't mind it. I'm used to working in a training facility for the most part for my wrestling, so being without fans is kind of a typical thing for me. I thought it was interesting. It's a very interesting time in history of wrestling. So I will give WWE credit where credit is due. They have done their absolute best in this situation, which is more than I can say for some other companies. Not shots at anyone specific, just what I've seen. Now, what did I hate, or dislike, I should say, specifically? I didn't like that they treated most of the matches like it was an episode of Friday Night SmackDown or Monday Night Raw. The problem was, the matches were just generic matches that it was just like pulling names out of a hat. It was stuff we've seen a million times. And I'm not saying the matches weren't good. There were definitely good matches. It's just some of them were not as good as they could have been. I didn't feel like they were at their full potential. Another problem I had. Uh, Let me say this before I mention this. This is my least favorite match of the night that I'm about to talk about. Let me go ahead and say first, I love Edge. He is one of my biggest inspirations. He is one of my favorite wrestlers. I'm a huge Edge fan. I have been for as long as I've been a wrestling fan. And I'm also a huge fan of Randy Orton. Okay? So here's the problem. I did not like their match. And it had nothing to do with them. It had to do with the spot they had to fill. So they had this spot. Their match was a last man standing match, for those of you who didn't watch, was a last man standing match. And it went on for about 40 minutes. Roughly 40 minutes. 30 to 40, maybe a little over 40 minutes. This match, they spent maybe, 2 minutes in the ring. And I'm going off of memory, so there might be stuff I'm not seeing or that might change after the recording. But as of me recording this, this is only after viewing Wrestlemania when it was live, or live, I should say, when it premiered. And Edge and Orton, they put on a great fight. It was a good fight because it was really it was really physical and really brutal, and it was really emotional, and it was done really well. The biggest problem with the match was the time. And I understand. They had specific matches that needed to go in a specific order and a specific time frame. So that's why the match was so long. But I feel like if we had the match be so long, they could have spent a little more time in the ring. But that's not to say I didn't like the match. It just happened to be my least favorite on the card. The match was pretty intense. And, spoiler alert, Randy Orton got his head smashed with a chair by Edge on top of a semi. This was a really, really good way to end the match. This is exactly how they needed to do it, and the way that I see it, they're going to keep feuding in the future. It may have been the end, but I don't see WWE doing that, and I have nothing wrong with it. You know, it's just, I'm not a fan of the last man standing style in general, so with no fans where they spent 40 minutes in the match, I think it was kind of doomed to make me feel unhappy towards it. If you like the match, that's fine. I thought it was great storytelling. It just went on for longer than it could have, or should have, I should say. So where does that leave us now? So let me talk about my absolute favorite match on the card. Most of the big matches that took place on this show, I enjoyed. But which one was my favorite? Hands down, my favorite match of the night, or of the entire show, was Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. For those of you who don't know, I am a huge mark for Drew McIntyre, and I absolutely love what he's done. I love his finisher. I love his physique. I love the character, and I love the work he's put in, and it's amazing. And I remember back a couple years ago, I was watching NXT, and I saw when he came back, you know, and I saw him win the NXT Championship, and it was so cool. It was awesome, because I didn't know much about him before he left, because that was just when I first started watching. And he really impressed me when I first saw him back in NXT, and then what I saw of him on the Indies, it was amazing. I was just like, this is great. This is awesome. This dude's gonna be, this guy's gonna be a champ. He's gonna be a champ, and he was. And then he left NXT because of injury. When he came back from injury, he got called up to Raw, teamed up with Dolph Ziggler. It was a good feud. He should have immediately gone into the title picture, if you ask me, though. Of course, he came back, was heel with Dolph Ziggler. They won the tag team championships, I should say. But he never had a world title shot, you know. And of course, recently turning him full on face. I've liked him the whole time, but they turned him full on face, especially at the Royal Rumble, where he won. Said he was going to face Brock Lesnar, and this match was just, it wasn't even like a super crazy match. It was very, very predictable. But I think the reason I liked it so much is because it was such a victory moment, such a sweet victory to see Drew McIntyre hit the Claymore, 1, 2, 3 on Brock Lesnar, and hold that championship above his head. It was just an amazing moment, and it really resonated with me. It was great, and Brock performed amazingly. It's very rare for me to like Brock Lesnar performances, but this was one of my more favorite ones. I don't mind if he's heel. It has to be a good performance. It has nothing to do with him being the most hated guy in the company as storyline, as far as storyline goes. But so what were the other matches I liked? I really, really, really enjoyed the Firefly Funhouse match. This match was so well done. This was an instant classic, instant masterpiece. And I understand some people are like, "Oh, it was less of a match and more of like a vignette or a movie or a skit." Like, yeah, but it was a story. It was a match with just ridiculously good storytelling, and that's one of the massive advantages of having a pre-recorded show. And honestly, I think WWE should go full on pre-recorded. At least if they're gonna do more stuff like that, more like vignettes, more like movie-ish style, because it was just done so well, and I was just amazed. It just had me amazed the whole time. I knew it was gonna be good. I knew it. I was so pumped at the start, and it just went really really well, really really quick, and like good symbolism, great like or foreshadowing, great meaning. It was just amazing. I don't know who came up with it. If it was Bray, then it's expected because he's had great ideas like that before. If it was Vince, hands down, there, props to Vince because that was an amazing idea. I don't know who did it, who came up with it, but I want more of it, and I know I'm not the only one. Now, another similar match that I was a fan of was the Graveyard match, or Boneyard, whatever, same thing, between AJ Styles and The Undertaker. This match was really good. And obviously it was a bit a bit slower paced than the Firefly Funhouse match. But what you gotta understand too is Taker is what, 54 years old? He gets around pretty good for a guy his age, and he still is in pretty good shape. Um, I didn't expect when Undertaker showed up at Super Showdown. I didn't expect that to happen. I didn't expect him to feud with Styles at Mania, and I did not expect a match that intense. It was a great match. Some people didn't. Oh, I hit my mic. Some people were not necessarily loving it. They just thought it was okay. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. Um, I love all the symbolism of having AJ and of like having AJ come out in the casket and everything, and having just having all these little elements just kind of brought together, and it was very good, and it really very much reminded me of the Final and Ultimate Deletion, as well as the House of Horrors match. Um, and if you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, go look them up. They're on YouTube. They're awesome. It was very similar to that, and I'm not saying that was a bad thing. It was a very, very good thing. It was exactly what it needed to be. So what are the other matches I liked? This one is controversial because some people didn't like this, I saw. And it was very similar to the McIntyre and Lesnar match. It was very comparable. Was Braun Strowman versus Bill Goldberg for the Universal Championship. Now, where do I stand on this? I really like this match. Everybody's like, oh, they spammed finishers. It's just like, oh, it's you who can hit more finishers. And it was just a really dumb match. It's like, but it really wasn't. And here's why. People were saying the same thing about The Fiend versus Goldberg at Super Showdown, which I also liked, is that Goldberg has been built up over the years as an unstoppable force. How do you stop that force? You bring in your toughest guy. Who was the toughest guy? The Fiend. Goldberg took down The Fiend. Goldberg is still indestructible. He's only lost a couple times since his return. He had The match he had with Braun Strowman, I thought was very interesting because there was just a lot of great back and forth, and like including Braun Strowman hitting 2 standard power slams and then 1 really good running power slam. This was done really well, and Goldberg actually took 2 on his shoulder a little bit, making it look just as brutal. And here's my biggest sigh of relief with that match, which I was super excited for going in. Braun Strowman has been treated very poorly on the main roster or in WWE. He had the tag team championship. He won the Raw Tag Team Championships at WrestleMania 34 with John Cone's son, Nicholas, who relinquished it the next night on Raw because Nicholas needed to go to school. Then he won, so he never got to defend that. He won the 50-man Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia, the greatest Royal Rumble. I believe that was in Jeddah, and he got the greatest Royal Rumble belt as well as a trophy. He could not defend the belt. So at that point he had won 2 different titles and had not been able to defend them or use them as a legitimate storytelling force. Recently he won the Intercontinental Championship and did essentially nothing with it. He didn't hold it very long, maybe just a couple of weeks, I can't exactly remember, but it just wasn't fitting. It didn't make sense. It was like he just doesn't need it. So I was like, okay, so they're giving him another world title match. They gave him about 30 back in 2018, and he couldn't win any of them. So please let him win this one, because right now he's one of the biggest baby faces in the company, and I would love to see him succeed. Well, he beat Goldberg. And it was such a sigh of relief for me, like I said, because I'm just such a fan of him, and he deserved a world title. And I really hope he gets to defend this one. I really hope this one gets taken with legitimacy, and they treat it like this is a career, like a massive career push for him. And like, it just made sense. Like, if you're gonna have Goldberg drop the belt, why would you not have him drop it at Mania? It's how you did it 2 years ago. So it just made sense to me. My final favorite match, or my final match that I really enjoyed, was Otis Dozovich versus Dolph Ziggler. This match was so good. It's really tough to say a all-time favorite match for the entire show, but I will say this match was easily top 5. This storytelling here was so good, and I'm such a fan of Otis because he's such a dork and he's such a big, like, hulking, like, baby. It's just funny to watch him and his expressions and his personality. It's awesome. I love it. Love everything about it. And the storytelling they've done with Mandy Rose and the character development, when you look past the fact that they're mid-card wrestlers, it's actually a really good story. It's a really well-done storyline. I haven't been following it all the way through, but what I've seen of it has been really well done, and I was really impressed. They treated that like a legitimate storyline, even though it was just with some guys that you typically would consider the throwaway wrestlers. And I really hope it pushes all of their careers further. I mean, Dolph Ziggler doesn't necessarily need it, but I mean, even if he gets another push from it, that's fine. I don't mind it. And I really hope they continue to feud, but at the same time, it was a sweet victory, so they may not need to, and I'm fine with it if they don't. But Otis, spoiler alert, Otis won the match, and he finally got the girl. He got Mandy Rose, who actually gave him a kiss. It ended with Sonya Deville distracting Otis. Dolph Ziggler hit Otis in the nuts. Mandy Rose came out after Sonya got off the apron. Mandy Rose came out, slapped Sonya, punched her a couple times, everything, and got in the ring while the ref was distracted, punched Ziggler in the sack, left the ring, and then Otis hit the Caterpillar. 1, 2, 3, it was over. And Otis got his kiss from Mandy at the end of the match. I have no words for it. It was just really well done. I'm just super proud of Otis for getting that opportunity because it was weird. It was a weird show. It was a weird scenario, but it was really well done, and I'm super happy for the way they did it. I really hope that I see more stuff like that in the future. Um, so let me talk about the other matches that I haven't mentioned yet. Let's talk about Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler first. Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler was a very good match. It was a hard-hitting battle. And it was very well done, and the feud has been built up very good. I was really looking forward to it. Where did I not like it? Where was the point where I decided this match was bad? It was the ending of the match. So, spoiler alert, Becky Lynch won her Women's World Heavyweight Championship back from Shayna Baszler by rolling back on her after she was in the choke, Shayna Baszler's choke. She rolled back. Shayna had her shoulders down for 1, 2, 3. Why did I not like this? The reality is, I just didn't like it because it was like a surprise roll-up. It's such a lazy way to end a match. Shayna should have kicked out and then they transitioned to something else because I don't even mind if Shayna didn't win. I think she's ready for a win, but if Vince doesn't, then that's fine. She doesn't need to have a title. She could, but she doesn't need it. So here's the problem. If they didn't have a clean finish, it makes Baszler look weak. A clean finish is somebody going out with dignity, going out swinging with everything they have. But a roll-up or a quick surprise like pin, it's just a lazy way to end a match, and I don't like it. It's going to happen for the rest of time, and I'll probably end up being in a match booked to have a roll-up be the finish. But I'd rather not do that because it just doesn't work for me. But other than that, the match was very well done, very good. Now let's talk about the Fatal 4-Way. Or Fatal 5-Way, sorry, because it was essentially a Fatal 4-Way. It was Tamina, Bayley, Sasha Banks, Lacey Evans, and Naomi. Tamina was essentially there just to take the first pin. Okay, that's all I'm going to have to say about that, really, because that's pretty much all she did. So, let me just skip right over the guts of the match, because it was just a standard Fatal 4-Way match at that point. People go out, people hit finishers, the friends team up, the enemies attack each other, standard stuff. But the problem I had was that I understand they have to tease Bayley and Sasha for a feud, which I am fine with. I think that would be a great feud to have again. Because the last time they teased it for months, they never had a payoff as far as I'm aware or can remember. What's the problem here? I just didn't like the way it finished. I don't think Sasha and Bayley should have teamed up again in the end. I think Sasha should have been gone for the match and maybe put in oh, I'm sorry sort of segment afterwards as a backstage segment. And I'm not saying that Lacey needed to win, although I would have liked to see it because I'm ready for them to pull the trigger on her and give her the belt, or at least have her give it a push. But I just didn't like the way it ended with Sasha coming back. I think we should have teased it a little bit more than we did. Let's talk about the final match of the night that I have yet to talk about. The women's tag team title match between Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross and the Kabuki Warriors. Where do I start with this one? So, I don't think that the Kabuki Warriors are working. I understand they're both Asian wrestlers who come from more or less similar backgrounds, who are both very, very tough opponents. But the problem I have with them as a team is they haven't made an impact when they should have. Look at Asuka. She has the biggest undefeated streak in NXT, and probably will for a long time. Comes to the main roster, her streak is over at WrestleMania 34, I believe it was. And since then, her career hasn't been the same. She's just been a mid-carder. She's been in limbo. And the reality is, I'm not a fan of the fact that they told her she was supposed to learn English at one point, but they decided to just have her embrace her Japanese. It doesn't make sense because it's her just talking and screaming in a language, and nobody really understands it. You know, if we could hear what she was saying, it would make a bit more sense, I think. Or she would throw in a few English words here and there, more so than she does. But it just doesn't really work for me. Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss. Let's talk about them. I'm a huge fan of both of them. They're both some of my favorite female wrestlers, especially in WWE. And the problem I had with them, especially in the match, in this case, was that it just didn't feel like a important match. It felt like something Vince threw on just to make sure somebody got a paycheck, to make sure we didn't have one or two women's matches in the night. This was a decent match. It was okay. I didn't love it or hate it. It was just kind of there. I know there's other matches I'm neglecting to mention. I feel like there might be some matches on night 2 that I'm forgetting to mention from the beginning of it. And I know I'm not mentioning Drew McIntyre versus Big Show because it technically happened on Raw. But we'll move on from that. Let's talk about Rob Gronkowski, okay? So I'm not a big football fan. I used to watch it more so than I do now, and I used to play the games more than I do now. Not that I don't like them or anything, it's just I don't prefer them. That being said, for years I've known who Rob Gronkowski is. And I remember back at WrestleMania 33, on the pre-show in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale, Mojo Rawley won from the help of Gronkowski, who shoulder blocked Jinder Mahal. So, what are my thoughts on him being back? I'm a fan, okay? So, here's the thing. The segments he's in are stupid. The words he's saying are stupid. His entrance music is good, but weird. And his entrance dancing is stupid. And you know what? That's okay. It's awesome. Because it's just dumb fun. And it's ridiculous. And it's outlandish. But it's so enjoyable. And I really want to see more of it. Now let's talk about the 24/7 Championship, which is now held by Rob Gronkowski. I really hope he doesn't hold it for long. Because I think that if he keeps training with WWE, and he keeps practicing, and working on his promos, and working on all this stuff, and maybe getting back a bit bigger and everything, I know who am I to tell somebody to get bigger, but still, maybe just at least tone up a little bit, maybe. I would like to see him as a regular on WWE. I think that would be pretty funny. Especially if he was coming out every time he did an entrance doing those ridiculous dance moves. I think that would be awesome. This is just my personal opinion, but, that's just where I stand. Well, anyway, guys, that is my opinion on WrestleMania 36. And I'm going to say it was a pretty decent show. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for more videos in the future. I'll see you guys next time.